Chào mừng quý vị đến với chương trình Những phát biểu nổi bật ngày. Chương trình cập nhật những gì các nhà lãnh đạo thế giới đã nói liên quan đến tình hình chiến sự tại Trung Đông, cuộc xung đột Ukraine cùng với các diễn biến xã hội đáng lưu ý khác. Mời quý vị theo dõi ngay sau đây.
החטיבה של ח'אן יונס שהתפארה בזה שהיא תעמוד נגד צה"ל היא מפורקת. ואני אומר לכם כאן, אנחנו משלימים את המשימה בח'אן יונס ואנחנו נגיע גם לרפיח ונחסל את כל מי שיש שם שהוא מחבל שמנסה לפגוע בנו. להמשיך, לא לעצור, זה קרב של נחישות לאומית. אנחנו צריכים להתמיד עד שאנחנו משלימים את המשימות שלנו. ולחמאס הרבה יותר קשה, תאמינו לי. אין להם נשק, אין להם תחמושת, אין להם יכולת לטפל בפצועים. יש להם 10,000 הרוגים, מחבלים, ועוד כ10,000 פצועים שלא מתפקדים. זה מהלומה שהולכת ומכרסמת ביכולת.
To be absolutely clear from the start, we have no plans whatsoever to put boots on the ground. What we have done in conjunction with our allies, and particularly the United States, is undertake targeted, proportionate action, which we strongly believe is in line with international law in order to achieve self-defense. We have seen the attacks on British and American military assets. In doing that, I believe we are able to significantly degrade Houthi capability. But I want to be clear, this isn't about removing the Houthis or removing the threat altogether. Of course, we are clear about this. This is about significant degradation. Well, of course, it's a fragile and dangerous situation, but nonetheless, the position that the United Kingdom government has taken since the very beginning of this crisis, alongside the support for Israel's self-defense, is to urge and through all channels to seek to de-escalate this situation. We need to make sure that this is confined to the conflict between Israel and Hamas and doesn't broaden out. Well, first of all, we need to acknowledge the situation that is happening in Israel, Gaza, and the tremendous tragedy that is unfolding there. That's why we are very strongly committed, first of all, to the getting of aid into that, to Gaza, and we're urging Israel to open up routes into Gaza to allow that to happen.
It's been a difficult few days for the Department of Defense, and the entire department is united in our outrage and sorrow over the death of 3 U.S. service members on Sunday in Jordan. We all mourn the loss of 3 Army Reserve soldiers serving at Tower 22. Sergeant William J. Rivers, age 46, Sergeant Kennedy L. Sanders, age 24, and Sergeant Brianna A. Moffitt, age 23. Our thoughts and prayers are with their families and their loved ones, and we know that this grief will never leave them. And we hope that they know that the department's love and support will never leave them either.
First question will go to Associated Press. Lita.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
They risked their lives and lost their lives to keep their fellow Americans safe from global terrorism. The President will not tolerate attacks on American troops, and neither will I. Our teammates were killed by radical militias backed by Iran and operating inside Syria and Iraq. In the aftermath of the vile Hamas terrorist assault on Israel on October 7th, terrorist groups backed by Iran and funded by Iran have tried to create even more turmoil, including the Houthis, attacking commercial shipping in the Red Sea. So this is a dangerous moment in the Middle East. We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region, but we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interests, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose, and how we choose. We believe that this was done by an element of what is known as the axis of resistance, and these are Iranian proxy groups. And how much Iran knew or didn't know, we don't know. But really doesn't matter because Iran sponsors these groups, it funds these groups, and in some cases, it trains these groups on advanced conventional weapons. And so, you know, I think without that facilitation, these kinds of things don't happen.
Jennifer?
In terms of escalation in the Middle East, you know, our goal was to make sure that we contain this crisis in Gaza, and that we prevented things from spreading to a wider conflict. Now, there's a lot of activity in the region, but there's always been a lot of activity in the region, and you know well that Iranian proxy groups have been attacking our troops even well before October 7th. And we can go back and count the numbers of attacks before October 7th, and they're not insignificant. There are things that are ongoing now. Well, things are not ongoing. You know, we don't see a conflict, an all-out conflict between Israel and Lebanese Hezbollah, and so I think managing that, I think, has been artfully done, and so, you know, we remain in contact with our Israeli counterparts and make sure that doesn't blossom into a war on another front. We don't see Israel engaged in a conflict with other countries in the region. We're not at war with Iran. And yeah, the Houthis continue to do some things that are very irresponsible and illegal. And so our goal is to make sure that we continue to take away capability from the Houthis to do what they've been doing. And this is not a U.S. issue. This is an international issue. You know, we're going to either be serious about the freedom of navigation, or we're not. And so as we look at partners like the UK and so many others that have joined us in this effort, this is about freedom of navigation. There are others in the world that are watching this to see how serious we are about this, and we are serious. And again, our partners and allies are serious about it as well. This is costing countries and companies significant amounts of money as they've had to redirect commercial traffic around. But the Houthis, I mean, their activity needs to come to a halt, and we would call upon Iran to quit or to cease supplying the Houthis with these advanced conventional weapons that they've used to attack ships in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb.
نفذت القوات البحرية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية عملية عسكرية نوعية استهدفت سفينة تجارية أمريكية كول كانت متجهة إلى موانئ فلسطين المحتلة، وذلك بعدة صواريخ بحرية مناسبة أصابتها بشكل مباشر. إن هذه العملية تأتي بعد ساعات فقط من استهداف القوات البحرية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية للمدمرة الأمريكية USS غريفلي بعدة صواريخ بحرية في البحر الأحمر، وكانت الإصابة مباشرة ودقيقة بفضل الله. إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية مستمرة في تقديم الدعم والإسناد للشعب الفلسطيني في قطاع غزة، وذلك بمنع الملاحة الإسرائيلية أو المتجهة إلى موانئ فلسطين المحتلة في البحرين الأحمر والعربي، حتى وقف العدوان وإدخال الغذاء والدواء للشعب الفلسطيني في قطاع غزة. إن القوات المسلحة اليمنية ستواجه التصعيد الأمريكي البريطاني بالتصعيد، ولن تتردد في تنفيذ عمليات عسكرية واسعة ونوعية ردا على أي حماقة بريطانية أمريكية ضد اليمن العزيز. وتؤكد كذلك أن كافة السفن الأمريكية والبريطانية في البحرين الأحمر والعربي هي أهداف مشروعة للقوات المسلحة اليمنية طالما استمر العدوان الأمريكي البريطاني على بلدنا.
Without betraying too much of our private diplomatic conversations, I will say we have had some very frank conversations with them about extremist settler violence. And that includes some very detailed conversations where we have presented cases to the Israeli government, cases of settler violence where we have seen reports and where we have seen documented settler violence and asked them to take action. And we have seen them take some action. And so we've engaged in a back and forth with them, both at the secretary's level and through our embassy. What we have seen, and I should say, we have seen since those interventions over the past month, 6 weeks, 2 months, we have seen the level of extremist settler violence come down somewhat. Not come down enough. We want to see more. But the interventions that we've made have, we believe, made a difference. But we want to see it continue to come down, which is why we have taken the actions today. With respect to your questions about settlements, we have made clear that we think the expansion of settlements in the West Bank undermine peace, undermine stability, threaten the ultimate establishment of a independent Palestinian state, make it more difficult, and so we will continue to engage with the Israeli government on that matter as well.
I think the main takeaway from the report is that the level of destruction that we're witnessing in Gaza is unprecedented. And it's going to take a lot of efforts from the international community to start with for the rebuilding and recovery in Gaza. And the worst case scenario, if we go back to how the status quo prior to October 2023, where Gaza's economy grew in 16 years by 1%, the average growth rate was 0.4%, it will take until 2092 for Gaza to go back to its 2022 level, which wasn't at all a good place for people in Gaza. Looking at the best case scenario, if the blockade and if the military operation ends now and the reconstruction starts now, the blockade on Gaza is lifted, and there's a comprehensive efforts from the international community and all players towards a two-state solution or a political framework. And Gaza's economy can grow and sustain a growth rate of 10%. It will take until 2035 for Gaza's economy to just go back to its 2006 level. After the 2014 military operation, which was less severe than what we're witnessing now, the recovery needs were about $3.9 billion. But given the level of destruction and the intensity of the damages we're witnessing currently in Gaza, and that the military operation is still ongoing, the number required for recovery in Gaza will be multiple times the 3.9 billion required after the 2014 war.
Что самолет сбит, это уже установлено точно, американской системой Patriot. Это уже экспертиза установила. И предложение вот тех людей, с которыми вы разговаривали, в Ханты-Мансийске, да, создать украинские власти там где-то обронили фразу, что хотели бы провести международное расследование. Мы просим об этом и настаиваем на том, чтобы было проведено международное расследование. Желающих из международных организаций нет. Пользуясь случаем, официально говорю, мы просим прислать международных экспертов и провести этот анализ. Оценить имеющиеся вещественные доказательства того, что самолет сбит системой Patriot из конкретного места и в конкретное время. Я уже говорил, в 11:10 было произведено 2 пуска с территории подконтрольной украинским властям. Вот мы просим о том, чтобы приехали международные эксперты. Мы не будем останавливать обмены. Нам своих ребят надо забрать. У нас соотношение людей, которые находятся в России, тех, которые наших ребят, которые находятся на Украине, не знаю сейчас, он 1 к 10, это наш даже больше. У нас 1000, у них несколько десятков.
There's no change to our view that the F-35 program for Turkey is incompatible with their use of the S-300 and S-400 missiles. So we're still having those discussions. And should Turkey be able to resolve our concerns about that, then there could be a restoration of movement into the F-35 program, but that's where we are. There's no change to that.
Коли у нас бюджетний дефіцит 37, ви знаєте, мільярдів доларів в цьому році, що критично важливо отримати цю допомогу від партнерів, від Європейського Союзу і США. Тому ми, звичайно, що вітаємо рішення надати нам допомогу цю. І мова йде про те, що в перший рік цієї програми Україна отримала бюджет 18 мільярдів євро. А так, як, в принципі, ми розуміємо, як уряд, як держава, що нам наша мета глобальна – це стати самозарадними і бути більш впевненими в завтрашньому дні за рахунок саме стійкості української економіки, для нас дуже важливо це розвиток приватних інвестицій. Тому що для нас дуже важливо зберігати макроекономічну стабільність, це передумови для економічного зростання. Тому що в нас, ви знаєте, половина бюджету фінансується саме за рахунок партнерів, половина за рахунок українського бізнесу, які працюють, які створюють робочі місця і сплачують податки. Тому нам критично важливо для утримання цієї стабільності саме допомога партнерів. Тому очікуємо, що американці якраз за прикладом Європейського Союзу підтримують нашу макрофінансову стабільність.
We have a catastrophe at our southern border. It is because the border has been deliberately opened wide that we see the terrific horrors that are taking place across our country right now. Here's a short list. From Texas to New York, waves of illegal immigrants are now overwhelming our communities. Just since the time I was elected Speaker, less than 100 days ago, more than 700,000 illegals have been welcomed into our country illegally by the Biden administration. American school children have been forced into virtual schools. Why? So migrants can sleep in their school buildings. Korean War veterans of the U.S. have been booted from nursing homes that were sold to house migrants. Our streets are being flooded with fentanyl. Hundreds of thousands of children and adults are being poisoned and losing their lives. And the Republicans in the House will continue to press for secure borders to ensure America's immigration system serves the national interest and does not benefit aliens who are a danger to our own people. Now, last Friday, President Biden came out in support of the Senate's deal, which we haven't seen yet. There's no text yet, but from what we've heard, this so-called deal does not include, from what we've heard, these transformational policy changes that are needed to actually stop the border catastrophe. Among the reported details of the bill, again, I'm working off reports because I haven't seen the text, but apparently, reportedly, a new authority would be created in the law so the president can, quote, shut down the border once daily crossings exceed 5,000 a day. Okay, right. You heard that right. Okay, so it is illegal to cross our border, but apparently we're concocting some sort of deal to allow the president to shut down the border after 5,000 people break the law. Why is it 5,000? If you add that up, that'd be 1 million more illegals into our country every year before we take remedial measures. It's madness.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike. They're not focused just on political and military targets. We can see from where they position themselves across civilian infrastructure that low blows aren't just a possibility in the event of a conflict. Low blows against civilians are part of China's plan.
Confirmed national.
There has been far too little public focus on the fact that PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure, our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, our transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now. To testify today, as I've described, the PRC is already today putting their pieces in place. I do not want those watching today to think we can't protect ourselves. But I do want the American people to know that we cannot afford to sleep on this danger.
Nous vivons en effet une crise agricole en Europe, et ce depuis de nombreux mois. Après les mouvements importants aux Pays-Bas, en Allemagne, maintenant en Belgique, Roumanie, Pologne, France, nous voyons partout en Europe des mouvements importants monter de contestation.
Notamment, qui a convaincu Orban.
La guerre est là, le monde se transforme, Et donc nous devons avoir une politique agricole plus simple, qui prenne en compte davantage la nécessité de produire plus, qui évidemment intègre nos objectifs environnementaux, mais qui le fait en préservant une concurrence loyale, en préservant le revenu des agriculteurs et en préservant notre souveraineté alimentaire. C'est ça le changement de logique que nous voulons porter au niveau européen. Nous avons ainsi obtenu qu'on mette en place des règles plus strictes pour éviter les abus très clairs et les déstabilisations qu'on a vues ces derniers mois. On a ainsi obtenu que pour les céréales, il y ait un mécanisme de sauvegarde renforcé en cas de perturbation du marché, ce qui permettrait des mesures d'intervention si les céréales venant d'Ukraine qui sont mises sur le marché européen viennent à déstabiliser de manière trop importante nos cours, les prix ou créer une concurrence qui serait déloyale. Je pense que le retour au calme, il y a aussi beaucoup d'agriculteurs qui ont beaucoup de travaux, je le sais, à faire et qui sont aussi largement mobilisés, est une nécessité. Je pense que ce retour au calme, et j'en prends ici l'engagement, ça ne doit pas être un retour à la situation d'avant. C'est-à-dire que nous, maintenant, il faut mettre en place et mettre en œuvre très vite ce qui a été décidé et aller au bout des engagements qui ont été pris.